This might sound controversial to some people, but aim assist in Call of Duty isn't that strong. It's not broken, it's not aimbot. I don't think it needs to be dramatically changed one way or the other at all. Yes, it's helpful, it definitely does exist. Rotational aim assist is definitely a thing, but while it helps kind of smooth out your aiming, I don't think it's doing the aiming for you. And in this video, I'm going to show you what I mean, as well as the testing that we did to try and work out what was going on. Now, it's important before I go any further, I wasn't trying to disprove aim assist. I started a stream up this morning and I decided, hey, maybe I would be better at Warzone, I'd be better at Call of Duty if there was some kind of fancy trick you could do with aim assist that I just didn't know about. Some magical setting, some sort of strategy that you could use that made aim assist a lot stronger. That would make me better at Warzone, and then my content would be a bit better, people would be excited, people would stop telling me how bad I am at Warzone, and everything would be great. So I went into this hoping there was something I was just missing, that actually aim assist was as good as other people show. But after all our testing, no, it's definitely not. So to test aim assist, I did a couple of things. First of all, I went into a private match with a load of recruit bots and then tried all of the different settings that everyone in chat who kind of believed that aim assist was super strong were throwing at me. So we did things like turning the dead zones up and down all of the way. Like I think at one point I had my left stick dead zone, the maximum all the way down to 20. I tried sensitivities from 4 up to 20, different ADS multipliers on the sensitivities. I tried different aim assist types. So obviously some people say Black Ops is better for like close range aim assist, and some people are saying the standard one is better. I checked that I had my aim response curve up to dynamic. We tried a lot of different things. I also tried to make sure, sometimes I was moving my left stick load, sometimes I was moving it just a little bit, sometimes I'd be putting a little bit of input on the right stick, and then sometimes I'd be not touching it at all, just to see if that helped at all. I tried lots of different things, but we ended up deciding, okay, the problem with the recruit bots is that generally they weren't moving. They were standing still most of the time when they'd shoot at me, and although I would get a tiny bit of rotational aim assist, whether I was hip firing or ADSing, it wasn't enough for me to stay on target if I was strafing left and right. Like, my aim would break off it pretty easily if I was strafing, whether I was a long way away or whether I was close. So we decided to change things up and get Findley in, one of the people that I play with quite a lot. He hopped into the game so then I could play against a real person. But we ended up coming across the same problems, that if he was running around, if he was moving at all, like obviously a real player would be, at any levels above the kind of very lowest levels of Call of Duty multiplayer or Warzone, players don't tend to stand still that much, and if they're standing still, you don't really need that much aim assist. So we started going through everything, trying all of the different options, trying to test, with aim assist off and then aim assist on, and then trying to keep the tracking. And I found kind of what I expected to see from the beginning, that if I turn aim assist off, it was pretty hard to keep him directly in my crosshairs, but it was easy enough to do it enough to kind of shoot him a little bit and end up killing him. If I turned aim assist on, then yes, it was definitely easier to keep him in my crosshairs. Like, no doubt about it, it makes a difference to how easy it is to like keep tracking someone that's moving. But I was still having to do a lot of work. I was still having to make sure I was using the right stick just as much as I ever had to try and keep him in the center. And it felt like aim assist was just kind of smoothing things out a little bit. It was removing some of those little micro corrections that I had to do when aim assist was turned off or when I was playing on mouse and keyboard. The only way that we could get it to be kind of super overpowered, the only way we could get it so okay, this is doing the sorts of things that you would see in those crazy clips of aim assist, is if Findley stood up on top of a wall and then jumped down in front of me, then without touching my right stick at all, it would track him almost perfectly. And just like you would expect, it only really worked if you were strafing a little bit. So strafing definitely does seem to activate rotational aim assist. You're sort of wiggling left and right with your left stick a little bit, and then it would track someone who was jumping down in front of you. And the explanation for this, I think, is pretty easy. That if you think of a player's hitbox as being like a rectangle, roughly covering their body, it's not very wide, like a person is about a foot wide, well, with their arms and stuff like that. But they're probably about, 6 feet tall. So their hitbox is a lot wider than it is tall. And Aim Assist only seems to activate when your reticle is kind of already over their hitbox a little bit. So if they're moving left to right, you're going to lose track of them really fast because they're kind of moving laterally and your reticle is only over them for a very brief period of time. Aim Assist struggles to keep up. But if they're moving vertically past your aim, then you've got 6 times as much of hitbox, 6 times as long that your reticle is on them for it to keep on tracking, so it's going to track them more. So yes, rotational aim assist does work much more strongly if someone is jumping in front of you, but that's obviously slightly less likely. It's less likely that you're going to be looking at a perfect angle and then someone's going to jump vertically past your field of vision without any kind of horizontal motion. That's a pretty rare occasion, but that is, I will grant, a time when aim assist seems incredibly strong. Now, we spent about 45 minutes in game trying absolutely everything chat could think of, trying all different settings, trying different kinds of scopes, trying different kinds of situations, whether Findlay was just sprinting around in a kind of unrealistic way where that probably wouldn't be happening if you're in a gunfight, or whether he was ADSing at me and trying to aim at me and shoot me. I tried all of the different things that people were suggesting maybe I could be doing wrong, where people were saying, okay, you have to turn ADS on or you have to turn ADS off just at the right time. So, you're toggling it on when you've got a moment and then it'll track them for a bit. And then when they move too fast, you take it off and then you aim at them again. Sometimes they were saying, okay, you're moving the left stick too much. You need to kind of move it very slightly. To which I kind of say, well, then you're standing still, which is a bad idea in a gunfight, or you're basically standing still. Sometimes they were saying just move the right stick a little bit. Sometimes they were just saying to move it a lot. And the only time we could get it to track kind of accurately, so you could keep aiming at someone while they were moving around a lot, is if you were using the left stick to move around a little bit while you use the right stick to keep your reticle on them. And that's just aiming. And it does help. Like, I don't want to make this sound like something it's not. It 100% does smooth things out. It does make it easier to keep your sort of reticle right on the target. 100% that definitely works. But it's not strong enough that it's kind of doing the aiming for you. If you're not already good at aiming at someone, if you're not already good at kind of predicting the way that they're going to move, you are going to miss your shots. That's 100% true. We tried some bits where I would try aiming at him without any aim assist on at all. And yeah, I definitely would have missed a couple more shots, but not enough that it would have made a huge difference. Some people were saying, oh, it's because the time to kill is so short, especially in multiplayer. That's why it's a big problem. But the time it takes you to actually get the reticle on them in the first place, which you need to do for aim assist to start tracking, is probably enough time for you to kill them in multiplayer. It's not like you're going to be extended, shooting them for an extended period of time. In Warzone, where they're going to have plates and stuff, you're actually going to have to shoot them for a bit longer. That's when I would have thought aim assist would have been a bigger deal, but then you still had the problem that it's not making that much of a difference. If you can't track them already, then you're not going to be able to track them with aim assist. One of the other things that I heard quite a lot, and one of the things that actually spurned on this video, was I was reading some comments yesterday after that whole thing about Apex changing the way their aim assist works, that the big advantage of aim assist is that it reacts in 0 milliseconds. So if you're tracking someone and they change direction, which is super common in a Call of Duty gunfight, people will be strafing, moving backwards and forwards, maybe sliding, maybe jumping, and they will change direction quickly. The idea being that aim assist doesn't have a delay, so it reacts instantly, while your human brain is going to take like 200, 250 milliseconds in order to react. So if you're using aim assist, you'll be able to react quicker than you would be on mouse and keyboard. And while that definitely makes sense in theory, I completely understand where people are coming from. As we've already established, aim assist only works, only really helps if you're already able to aim and kind of keep your reticle on the enemy. And that means that you are having to use the right stick. So if someone's moving from left to right, you're having to push slightly right on the right stick to make sure you can keep up with them. Aim assist isn't good enough at keeping up with someone. This is just me messing around because I had my sensitivity set up to 20 because someone said that was a good idea. It's not enough to keep up with them when they're moving left to right. And then if they suddenly start moving right to left, yes, your aim assist might be immediately tracking them going back the other way, but you're still going to be pressing right on the thumbstick because, as we've established, human brain takes like 200 milliseconds, 250 milliseconds to notice that change. So now you're fighting against the aim assist, it's trying to move you left, you're going right, and all that's going to happen is maybe it will slow down the way that you're moving it right, but you're still going to override it, because it's super easy to override aim assist if you're just trying to move the reticle in a different direction to the way it's trying to go. So you're still going to end up missing. Maybe you would end up getting an extra shot off. Maybe there's enough time in that kind of 200 milliseconds where it slows your aim down enough to hit them one more time than you would have normally without any aim assist at all. But by the time the enemy's taken like one step in another direction, you'll already not be aiming at them anymore. Now, what the kind of results of all of this testing came down to was people who were super for aim assist seemed to agree, and you can let me know in the comments if you disagree with this, that basically aim assist makes it so people who are already very good at aiming, very good at tracking their targets, very good at kind of keeping up with someone who's moving a lot, it makes it slightly easier for them to stay on that target completely. Like little kind of micro corrections that maybe they would need to do with no aim assist, it lets them stay on it like 100% of the time, or 90% of the time, when otherwise they'd be only staying on a target 80% of the time. But it doesn't seem to help someone who's already not very good at aiming. And that to me doesn't sound that overpowered. If you're already good at aiming, it's going to make you slightly better at aiming. And I would say, if you're using mouse and keyboard, if you're not very good at using mouse and keyboard, you're going to struggle to hit your shots. If you're really good at it and you've, fine-tuned your sensitivity and stuff like that, you're going to be able to hit your shots a lot better, and you're going to be able to start doing those fancy things where people flick the mouse across their mouse pad and are immediately, accurate getting headshots like you see people doing in Counter-Strike and things like that. There's still a big skill gap. There's that skill gap on mouse and keyboard, and there's evidently still a skill gap on controller. Otherwise, I would always be hitting my shots. There are situations where aim assist definitely works well, like people were saying here, if you're climbing over boxes or something, it will help with a bit of the vertical aim that you might not think about doing, and that is true, but I can't think of many gunfights that I get into with somebody where they're mantling up and down boxes while I'm shooting. That obviously slows down your lateral movement and adds a bit of that vertical movement, both things that are massively helping aim assist. So I think it's super easy to make clips where it makes aim assist look a lot stronger than it is normally in a game, but that's not hugely helpful. And if it's not doing the aiming for you, if you're not already very good at aiming, it's probably not going to be doing a huge amount for the vast majority of people who are playing the game. So what we end up in is a situation where, okay, at the higher end of gaming, at the, the higher end of skill, that's what a lot of people ended up saying is like, okay, you're not good enough at aiming normally. This is something that only really affects the highest skill levels of gaming. Then it's something that probably doesn't affect the game that much. Now, I can already predict some of the things that people are going to say in the comments, and it's completely understandable. I completely get where people are coming from. Some people are going to say, oh, well, you're a controller player, so you don't know what it's like. Even if aim assist isn't like an aimbot, it's not locked on, it's not doing the aiming for you, it's a big advantage that mouse and keyboard players have, so they're losing out on this, so how is that fair? Well, I am someone who has played on mouse and keyboard for a very long time. I tend to play Call of Duty on controller. I obviously played the first Call of Duty on mouse and keyboard because you had to, there was no controller support. But then from Call of Duty 2 onwards, I'm mostly playing controller. I've gone through long periods of playing, for a few months here and there where I play on mouse and keyboard. And I actually did a video a while back talking about some of the advantages mouse and keyboard has. And I genuinely think mouse and keyboard does have some advantages, but they're different. So on mouse and keyboard, you've got the big advantage that it's quite easy to make very small adjustments and really big movements. You've got a bigger range of movements. So you can move the mouse a tiny bit to make those micro adjustments. You can even get mice where you sort of hold a button and then you can make bigger movements, but it will reduce the sensitivity just for a little bit. That's not considered cheating. That's something a lot of gaming mice can do. So you can do that kind of fine tuning of your aiming, but you can also do the big movements to kind of turn around or to track someone very quickly that's moving very fast, like in a close quarters fight. And I found that when I was using mouse and keyboard, I didn't really have too much problem. Like I was getting a similar kill def to what I normally get, and that was with me being a lot less practiced on mouse and keyboard. Obviously, with a controller, I still think it's easier to track people very, very smoothly, at least at the level I'm at a controller and the level I'm at a mouse and keyboard. I think that's definitely possible. But on a controller, you simply can't make those massive movements and those tiny movements unless you've got insanely good control of the control stick, of the analog stick, because the difference between doing a tiny little micro adjustment and completely trying to spin around is just a difference in moving your thumb a few millimeters or changing the angle of the thumbsticks a few degrees, rather than a difference between moving your mouse a few centimeters or moving your mouse like 30 centimeters across an entire mouse mat or a big desk. And so controller definitely needs something to help with that. A controller needs something to kind of be able to assist a little bit with your aim. That's where Aim Assist comes from. In terms of, okay, if you're making micro adjustments, it can help out a little bit with doing the bigger adjustments of keeping your aim centered on them a little bit. Or if you're kind of doing a very quick sort of flick, you're trying to spin around a little bit. If you're trying to stop your reticle, your aim on a character, the fact that it slows you down, so that's not so much the rotational aim assist, that's the normal aim assist, slow down, it will help to make sure that you are aiming at the person when you stop the big movement by just giving you a little bit of slowdown when you're over them. Now, I do think there is a problem with aim assist. I think there's one way in which it is overpowered, and I think it probably should be changed. Well, definitely should be changed. And that's when you're doing things like aiming at a material that you can shoot through, or you're aiming at smoke, and then you get that little twitch of aim assist, that little bit of rotational aim assist, where it's like, oh, this has given me information that I wouldn't otherwise have. I definitely agree that is a problem. That should be changed. If you can't see an enemy on your screen, then the aim assist shouldn't kick in at all. But I think a lot of these videos that content creators put out, that people put on, Instagram and TikTok and YouTube shorts and stuff like that, saying, look at this crazy aim assist. I genuinely think a lot of those are either set up to be the perfect situation for aim assist. Like I said, someone dropping down in front of you makes a massive difference just because the hitbox is a lot longer than it is wide. Or it's one of those, 1 in 1,000 times where the exact situation happens naturally in a game, and then people are like, oh my god, that's incredible, but are kind of forgetting the context of this doesn't happen in the other 999 gunfights that you get in. Or it's people cheating. And I think there's probably an element of some people using some sort of aimbot, using, whatever they call it, soft aimbot, where it still misses a few shots, but it hits enough on target to get you the win. And they're just saying, hey, look how crazy my aim assist is, to kind of cover up the fact that they're cheating. And I think from the other side, obviously from people that insist on using keyboard and mouse because they prefer using keyboard and mouse, even though they're absolutely adamant it's the worst way to play, which is a weird decision for me. You can get a controller for not that much money, and playing on keyboard and mouse, if you think it's a much worse to play, seems odd. It's like setting your FOV to like 80 and being like, well, this is the way I want to play. It doesn't matter that I can't see all these other people. All these other people who are setting their FOV to 120 are clearly cheating because they can see more than me. Or, setting your resolution to 720 or locking the frame rate to 30 and saying, well, this is how I want to play, but everyone who has a higher resolution or a higher frame rate has a big advantage. That would seem like a super weird argument, so I'm not sure quite what's different about this. But the people who are insisting on using keyboard and mouse, for some people that's kind of the only way they want to play games. So for them, I think there's maybe a temptation to think that whenever they see someone shooting them and beating them, like doing better aiming than them, they're tempted to say, oh, it's all aim assist, which is completely downplaying the skill of the other player, the ability for the other player to aim. And I think that's really misleading and quite damaging, because it makes a lot of controller players think, oh, I must be terrible because my aim assist isn't working like that. There's clearly there's something I'm missing. It maybe sometimes covers up when people are actually cheating and you're looking at aimbot. And I think sometimes it's just caused by the spectator cam being incorrect. When you're playing a game, you see every little difference you make. Your client is tracking every tiny little micro movement you make. So when you're aiming, you see all of that jitter, you see all of that inaccuracy. Whereas when you're watching the spectator cam, you're not getting that much information. You're not getting that kind of time resolution of every tiny little movement they made. Instead, you're just getting however many times a second the server is updating and sending that information to you. So their aim is obviously going to be smoothed out. You're losing a lot of that jitter, and you're just seeing the sort of bigger movements that they're making. So it looks like they were maybe tracking you a bit more perfectly than they actually were, just because that's the only information your game has. If you're relying on spectator cams, you're really not getting the whole picture at all. So anyway, that's enough of me talking. Let me know what you think in the comments. Do you think Aim Assist is super overpowered? Do you think there's something that I missed in my testing that I need to do, some different way I need to play, some setting that I need to turn on? If you do, let me know. I'm happy to run this test again. It's a nice fun thing to do in a stream. It's very easy to test, and then we'll see how it's going. The only thing that's very difficult to test is obviously the difference in Aim Assist between multiplayer and Warzone, because setting up a private game of Warzone is much harder than it is in multiplayer. But if there's enough people that think, yep, there's a definite way it works in Warzone that doesn't work at all in multiplayer, let me know, and maybe we'll try and get a community game going on Saturday, and we'll try and get something like that happening. Anyway, don't forget to leave a like or a dislike if you hate this, subscribe, turn your notifications on, and I'll see you for the next one. Goodbye.